I think we can get started. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Great. Hi, so I'm Emily Stam. I'm the COO and Vice President of Cybersecurity Nonprofit. Thank you all for coming today. And today we're going to be talking about careers in security. And before we get started, just a couple things. Again, we are CSNP. We have a webinar every week. Feel free to check us out at csnp.org. And also, if you have any suggestions for webinars, topics, you can go to info@csnp.org and send us an email. Additionally, if you're interested in speaking, we also have a speaker request form if you go to csnp.org/speak. And you can also find us on our social media as well. And next week, we have another webinar. It's Operation Soft Cell, a worldwide campaign against telecommunication providers. So be sure to check that out. You can RSVP on our website, csnp.org/webinar. And so we have a great panel today. We have Andrea Kim, who's an IT security analyst at Gogo. Amanda Crofton, who's a senior security engineer at FLEXE. Reynaldo Gonzalez, a principal cybersecurity architect at United Airlines. Rocio Gonzalez, an application security engineer, and Ahmad Jamil, a senior manager of information security and technology at Sitetracker. So thank you guys all for being here today. I wanted to start us off by just having everybody give an introduction, talk about their career in security and what brought them here. So yeah, let's see, who would like to start?
I guess I can go first. That's
Sure.
all right with everybody. So hi everyone, happy to be here. My name again, Ahmad Jamil. I'm Senior Manager of Information Technology and Security at Sitetracker. Sitetracker is a SaaS-based company built on Salesforce for the telecommunication industry in terms of project management. So what my role within Sitetracker is to make sure that the security posture for the company when facing customers because of our increased security needs within the telecommunication industry, we need to meet certain security guidelines and controls and certifications and compliance. And my job is to make sure that we meet those, make sure that any security questions that get thrown our way are answered, and to make sure internally as a company that our security posture is always in the green and try to remediate or mitigate any risks that come up in that process. That's a little bit brief introduction about my current position and how I got to this position. So I've been in the IT industry now for about 16 years, 17 years since graduating college, and I haven't done anything else really. It's never been a need to kind of dip my feet into another field just to test. I love IT. I started there at the ground level. I got my first managerial position with a company that did disaster recovery, and that was also my first experience in security. One of the things that made me really enjoy the aspect of GRC, governance, risk and compliance and security, was I needed to always be aware of the data, where it was, who was accessing that data, and how it was being secured. And as the company I was with grew, we expanded out into the international global market in Russia, and that opened up a whole new door, a whole new avenue of information security that needed to be addressed in terms of data protection and privacy laws. So that really helped. I learned a lot. It was kind of like getting my feet thrown into the fire because my role was the only role that was in the company. I built the security posture of my previous employer from the ground up until I built out a team. Then I was able to kind of split out both the IT side and the information security side. A lot of people think it should be all encompassed into one, and that's not really a good best practice. So that helped me understand that and realize that information security didn't just mean the data, it also means the physical security of the location, and the data security, and just the overall policies and procedures for a company. And now my current role with Sitetracker, again, this is a role where I'm building out a team from the ground level. They didn't really have a good security posture before I got there, so we are shoring that up and making sure that it's what it needs to be for not only now, but in the future, 5-10 years down the line. If I ever leave that company, at least they'll have a security posture in place that the next person can understand and move forward. Why did I get into the security role? Just Emily, just make sure that I keep track of everybody's time. Am I going through all of the questions, or just
no,
this
sorry,
first one?
just the introduction for now. But yeah, thanks.
Right.
We'll get more to that. Thanks, Ahmad.
Yep.
Amanda, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I can go ahead and go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Crofton. I'm a senior security engineer for a startup called FLEXE in Seattle. Basically, we're a logistics software as a service. We help people who need to ship goods find warehouses to coordinate that to ship goods out faster. So we're kind of like an undercover Amazon, so to speak. I've had a lot of varying roles throughout my technical career. I started my tech career working at a call center doing tech support for AT&T when I was a teenager, and worked my way up and found an open network operations role and worked in a NOC for a couple of years before I moved on to security engineering, and then eventually moved into a security operations center role. I worked in a SOC for a couple of years, started at tier 1, worked my way up to tier 3, and became the SOC lead before transitioning into vulnerability management and application security. And now I do pretty much everything at my current place at FLEXE. We're a startup, so, you know, kind of a lot of what Ahmad mentioned, just general security policies and those kinds of things, putting that together. But yeah, I've held a lot of different roles. I started with networking first to get my basics, and then kind of moved more into security, and then more in depth into application security. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me and how I started my career into security.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Andrea, do you want to go next? I think you're on mute.
Yep.
Yep.
I will unmute myself. I have lots of animals here, so they make noises. Keep it muted all the time unless I'm actually speaking. I'm Andrea Kim. I work as an IT security analyst at Gogo, which is the in-flight Wi-Fi company. So if you are in an airplane and you want to use Wi-Fi, chances are you've had some experience with this. My day-to-day job entails vulnerability management and application security. So I'm working with the developer teams to identify and remediate vulnerabilities in the code. Just a quick overview.
Yeah, great. Rocio.
Hi. My name is Rocio Gonzalez, and I have a bachelor's degree in network technology and security from DePaul University. I started my career in cybersecurity as an analyst for the Security Operations Center in Allstate, and I did monitoring and incident response. Then I moved on to an engineering role as a network security engineer. And there I did more of the configuring, managing, and troubleshooting of network security devices like network firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention systems, and you know, other monitoring and capturing type of technologies. Then currently I transitioned into application security engineering, which you know, it's more of a educator and trusted advisor role.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks. And Reynaldo, you want to go now?
Yep. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Fernando Gonzalez. I first started in this career path by getting into networking when I was in high school. So I got my first Ccna certification before graduating high school. During that time, I learned about building out networks, small LANs, environments, building out cables, getting them to work and talk to each other. I learned or heard about first the concept about hacking and got into a little bit of cracking applications, trying to understand how they work. Didn't really get too much into it at that time, but that's kind of what first started my interest. From there, I went to got my bachelor's degree in networking at RIT in upstate New York. There, I started getting experience providing support to the help desk, to staff, faculty, staff, students, and also did a few networking jobs either at school or just off campus. From college, I ended up getting an internship with Cisco Systems. I actually ended up doing two. I did one in North Carolina, and then one in Dallas for several months. So it was almost close to 2 years the amount of time I spent. And during the internship, I got exposed more to networking. Worked a lot with attack and advanced services. Got a little bit into some security-related projects, but more networking focus. After college, then I got, that was actually my foot in the door into a big company. So after college, I got hired full-time to work for Cisco Systems. I worked with them for over 13 years. I was in North Carolina. I moved to Spain, and then from Spain, I came back to Texas. So I was mainly in the advanced services organization as a trusted advisor, building relationships with customers. I was like a consultant engineer working with them, providing support to customers in the US, Central, South America, and in Europe. Eventually, I moved up across a few roles and became a solutions architect in Cisco. While I was working with Cisco, I also had the opportunity to teach college classes at a local community college, Lone Star College here in Houston. So I'm also an adjunct professor teaching courses on the Cisco Networking Academy. And that ranges from courses from the routing and switching, security, design to the CCNP, routing and switching. I'm also currently teaching the cybersecurity courses and really get to make an impact with the students. So I like doing that because it allows me to take the process or the exposure I learned from the professional experience and then being able to showcase that or show that to students and help them get a realistic picture of what they see in the workforce. So it's a good dynamic to see. So from there, then after Cisco, I then transitioned to a new role with United Airlines. So I'm a principal cybersecurity architect in the IT security risk and compliance organization as part of our security technologies team. And mainly my role there is to work with the different teams across SRC, across digital technology, and help with the architecture components and making sure that our requirements are being met by a solution or some kind of design that we're working on.
It's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for those introductions. So for our next question, I wanted to ask, why did you get into security, which I think everyone touched on a little bit, but feel free to elaborate. And why did you choose this career specifically? And if you've jumped around and had several careers that you're passionate about, you could talk about a couple, or if you have one career that you've been in a long time, you could talk about why you were initially drawn to it and why you stayed in that. But before we keep going, I also wanted to say for our audience, feel free to start putting questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Probably the Q&A would be better actually, but yeah, feel free to start putting questions. They could either be directed towards the panel or a specific panelist if you have a question about a certain field. So feel free to start doing that and we'll kind of bring those questions in as we go. But yeah, so just to repeat the question, why did you get into security? Why did you choose this career specifically? Anyone want to start?
I can start.
Sure.
As you can probably tell from the length of the previous response compared to everyone else's response, my career in cybersecurity has been much shorter, just like my responses have been so far. I've only been in the field for 2 years. I did a massive career change in 2016 from something completely unrelated, pet care. I had my own business. So I've just always been into computers and been kind of early adopter of just about everything. So I decided to change careers, learned how to code, became a developer at Allstate, already technically an Allstate company. And that's how I met Emily. And and so since then, I was working as a developer and started to see how security was and wasn't working in the applications that were being built, at least on my team, and I was working in mobile specifically with Android, and started just diving into it and learning more and more, and decided that's what I wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough to get into a SANS program that enabled me to pivot a little bit again from development into security, and also be able to get my first job in security, which is where I'm at right now at Gogo. So I have a totally different experience than everybody else. It sounds like everybody has a lot of experience and a background, all in IT at least from the beginning, but mine's completely different. And if anybody has any questions outside of this, you can feel free to message me if you want to ask on chat or whatever, because I have a totally different perspective than everybody else, I think. So, but I'm also part of CSNP, and I have a special interest in accessibility, digital accessibility. So I am the accessibility director for CSNP. So you can reach me through there as well.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Andrea.
Yep.
Who wants to go?
I can go next.
Sure.
Yeah, so I have also not been in security for a super long time, but it is something that I did kind of get into fairly quickly. I actually don't have a degree though, so I didn't even get my high school diploma. I got my GED. But I actually dropped out of high school early, got my GED, and wanted to go to ITT Technical Institute. For those of you who remember when they were around, there was a lot of commercials about, hey, you're just sitting at home not doing much, come learn about technology. And at the time, I was not making a lot of money and quite poor. And I'd had a history of not really having a lot of money. So I would modify my Xbox and my friends would rip some games for me. And that was kind of my first experience with hacking. And it kind of expanded my mind to think, okay, well, there's obviously a lot more here that I wasn't aware of in terms of technology and networking and being able to modify technology. So I went to IT Technical Institute. It was not great at all. I hated it. I dropped out again and basically started working on certifications. So for me, I found security specifically interesting because I was working in a networking role. And for anyone who has worked in networking role and troubleshooting availability, it's not the funnest, right? It's not the funnest when a company is down and you're trying to figure out how to bring a switch back up. So security was a lot more interesting to me. Still stressful in a lot of aspects, but I felt like that there was more of a quest you kind of go on in security when you're trying to find answers for things. So that definitely drew me to it. And along those lines, since I've experienced so many different roles in security, definitely finding what you like is important. Maybe there's an aspect of security that you find interesting and then you actually end up doing that job and you realize that maybe it wasn't as fun as you originally thought, like vulnerability management. I think Andrea knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, I would say I got into security from kind of going a non-traditional route of taking certifications and not getting a degree and just going straight certs, and it benefited me really well. It got me the skills that I needed right away to get where I wanted to go. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Great.
Yep.
Nice. Reynaldo,
Yes,
do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, oh okay.
Sorry. Yeah, sure, I can go. Yeah, so I guess, why I got into security and this path. So the simple answer, it's for me is it's cool and it's fun. I find it really interesting. It can be stressful. It can be sometimes removing your hair from your head, but it's still fun and cool and so. I guess what really did it for me is, I've always had an interest or fond in security, and it always piqued my interest to try to understand how things work and what's happening. So what really kind of helped drive more of that is when I went back to get my master's in cybersecurity in New York. And then that kind of just helped me like level set really where I want to go to my career. So that's kind of where I ended up in this role with United. But really, it all stemmed down from just that interest in being curious how technology works and what security does, like what it tries to do, what's happening, how you try to prevent it or access it, way of learning, understanding just how things work in general. You know, it's kind of like when your parents tell you, when you're a kid, your parents tell you not to do something, you still do it anyways, or you figure out a way to go around that. So in a way, kind of security is like that, is, you know, you're not supposed to do certain things, but you want to know what happens or what occurs. So you find ways to break it and try to fix it. So it's really the curiosity, and I chose this, I guess, without realizing it at an early age. I've always kind of tried to do it. At times, yeah, I didn't try to learn everything I could, but it's just having that curiosity, and then from there, that just kind of took me in the path of networking with mix of security. So I find that security doesn't bore me. Some of it is dry, it can be, and some of it does take effort to understand, but it's not boring. It's always different, and technology is always changing. So it always makes it very interesting to try to learn with those changes.
Great. Thanks. Ahmad, do you want to go now?
Yeah. Okay. So mine was a little bit different from everybody else, where when I got hired in my previous role, I was brought in to, and they were built for 50 people, and I came in at 150 people. So they needed to take all of their on-premise IT infrastructure and move it to the cloud. So that was my main role coming in, and then as that was doing that, I started understanding a little bit about the SaaS-based business model and information security and data protection, privacy, and all these things. And then I started implementing those into the policies and procedures while using initially it was a NIST cybersecurity framework, but then we moved it over to an ISO 27001 framework, only because we went international, so we needed to get that certification for clients overseas. But mine was kind of just a progressional roll over to security. Keep maintaining IT, also learn security, found out that I really enjoyed understanding the laws. At that time, GDPR wasn't around yet, but now you have all these different laws that are popping up, GDPR, CCPA in California. So the role kind of intrigued me because I wanted to know and understand why everybody's so up in arms about privacy. Why is it so important? Why I don't want anybody to, why do people put that little button on top of their camera in their laptops, you know, they hide the little camera thing. Why is everybody doing that? So that progressive curiosity, as Reynaldo alluded to, just kind of peaked more and more and grew, and then that fire grew, and it lended me to see a whole vast array of different ideas and different thought methodologies on security and how people address it. Because even though there's these frameworks to guide you, you really are subjected to how your company deals with the security and risk and governance and all these things. So it's kind of like you're taking a refined diamond, and now you're chopping it up into making it into your specific diamond that's specific to your company. So it's an interesting career. I enjoy it. I love it. I'm lucky enough to say I don't work a day in my life because I love what I do, and I'm happy that I can say that. So every morning I get up. My bedroom to the office is about 40 feet, so that's really good. I enjoy that. But you know, it's a great career, and it's growing, and you have so many branches in that. It's like a tree with 1,000 branches. So you can go any which way in security. You know, the panelists here, they got so many different viewpoints on security because they're each handling it in a different way. For me, the managerial side, the more strategic approach to security is what I enjoyed. So I always go for positions where I can develop a team and then disseminate security throughout the company with a team approach. I found that was my little niche in security. So I understand like the SIEM tools like Splunk and things like that, but to go into there, like maybe what Amanda might know or Andrea might know, to go in there and do the actual coding for Splunk to get stuff. Now I have a team for that, but I understand it as a whole, and I think that for my niche in security, that's the career path I chose, and the certifications really help. I recently got my CISM, going for my CISSP. So those are the career choices I've chosen, and for me, those are what fit. Some people might still enjoy the security engineer role because they just love getting in there and figuring out why they got hacked or why a company got hacked. So for me, it was more a different route. Every route is the best route. So anybody tells you, no, don't do it, don't go that route, don't listen. Go to the route that you want to go to, because that's the route you're going to love. And that's why I chose it, and that's why I'll probably continue doing it. And it's a great job. I work from anywhere.
Yeah.
That's another
That
beauty
is nice.
yeah. So
that is nice. Yeah.
that's about it.
Great. And Rocio.
Hey, so for me, I think that everybody already touched on it, but definitely I like the challenge, I guess. I've always liked challenging things, so I was curious and exploring things, and you know, I think that I was exploring technology classes while I was still in school and still trying to decide my path, and I found that I really like it. So I went ahead and took some more classes, and then I really like network technology because it really is the medium for everything, right? It just you know, the way the internet works is pretty interesting. So yeah, that's why I chose this career, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. So for the next question, what skills are required for this career? So by that, I mean, you know, we kind of know some of the skills that are required for cybersecurity in general, although you can definitely elaborate on those. But for specifically your type of career as an applications security engineer or an analyst or an architect, like what skills do you need specifically for that career? We can start, Rocio, if you want.
Yes, sure.
Great.
I wrote a couple of soft skills, but I'll start with the technical skills. I think coding and scripting, it's very important for application security engineering. Having an understanding of the common vulnerabilities like the OWASP 10 is also helpful. Familiarity with the security best practice frameworks that Ahmed has mentioned, like NIST and ISO and CIS. Understanding the continuous integration and continuous delivery pipelines and the security development lifecycle, and having some understanding of cloud technologies and containers might also be a good skill to have. I wrote as, I got as a soft skills, maybe resilience, be able to deal with, you know, failure, and great desire to learn, you know, and to curiosity, I think. Oh, and communication. Communication skills are very important for application security engineer because education is just a big part of it, right? Helping developers write more secure code.
I definitely agree with that. Communication is very important, probably in general with security, because you're trying to communicate between developers, between management. It's definitely becomes kind of a bridge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Rocio. Andrea, you want to go next?
Yeah, she pretty much said everything for application security. I would just add that just determination, motivation. You have to really be dedicated, and you want to continue to learn because things are always changing. So in any of these positions, really, anything related to cybersecurity, you're going to need to continue to learn constantly. You really have to be dedicated to continuous education. hopefully your employer will sponsor a lot of it, but also even on your own webinars and things like this with CSNP or, you know, podcasts, read books, do lessons and capture the flags and things like that. The more education you get, the better off you will be. I wanted to just also add that the networking component is also very important, even for application security, because you have to know how the applications are communicating with each other and how they all fit together in the pipeline. So that's something that me not coming from a IT background at all had a little trouble with in the beginning. So it's something that I just wanted to point out that is very necessary as well. So even if you don't come from networking background and don't think you're going to be doing networking, you still have to really understand, you know, the backbone of the internet and how everything communicates together to be able to be effective.
Yeah, Andrea, sorry to jump back in, but yeah, I agree absolutely. I had also listed, you know, understanding the TCP/IP, you know, transport protocol control internet protocol is important in general. Have as a technical skill too.
Great, thanks. Reynaldo, do you want to go next?
Yep, sure. Yeah, so in this role, I mean, yeah, you want to have the technical aptitude, that desire to learn, like the way Rocio mentioned, and communication is a big key. So having good soft skills, communication skills is very helpful and effective, because not only do you need to understand the technologies or the concepts, but know how to communicate effectively to your leadership or across teams, and understanding how or what to ask, like the right questions. So for the architect role, you got to understand the security strategy. What are you trying to achieve? The who, the what, the how, the why. You know, it all falls as part of an overall strategy for the business, understanding or translating business goals to technical requirements. And then those technical requirements also can be elaborated to more specific security controls that you're trying to address. So a networking foundation is very helpful, because you would understand the concepts that you have with different components of a network environment, from the endpoints to the servers, to the switches, to the routers, to the edge, firewalls, and not just understanding what each of those components do, but how they function, and what they do and how they work together. Background in design is very helpful. So network design, network core concepts would help you see the overall picture, understand whenever you look at a particular solution or a feature that's available in a solution, is thinking about the ways that it can impact the existing environment, or changes that you need to consider. So that background will be very helpful in that. Certifications are a good way for building up that experience and that exposure. Of course, there's always the hands-on experience, but that path and learning about the foundations and the core concepts would help narrow down or hone on those skills that you can improve on.
Great. Ahmad, do you want to go next? And feel free to jump in, everyone, as well.
Specific to my role. So my role was more of a strategic role. It's managerial. So I have a team that reports to me. So that I think the fundamental, to take a step back and just understanding not only IT fundamental concepts, but also information security fundamental concepts. So we're the IT portion side is more like the OS, the network design, the type of hardware and software that's out there. And then you have the information security side, which is the privacy fundamental concepts, governance concepts, risk concepts. So these are things that will blend together, and they complement each other once you learn both to adequate ability to provide that knowledge. If you can take the knowledge, digest it, and then spit it out, so the next person who doesn't know anything about information security or technology can understand what you're saying, then you know you've learned it. Because if you, and I tell this to my daughter all the time, whenever she reads something or talks about something, I say, if you cannot explain to me in 2 to 3 sentences of what this is about, you don't understand it yet. So I think that's a good way to start, is whatever you get, whatever you digest, whether it's IT, IS, learn it. And if you can disseminate it to a layman's person and have them understand it, then you know that it's very easy. Because in managerial, you're going to talk to C-suite, C-level executives. You have to be able to communicate, and that's the soft skills there, where you need to orally and written communication. The CEO, the VP of finance, or somebody has no idea what Splunk is going to do and what the coding is involved in Splunk and all of that stuff. So they don't care. They just want to know if you can take what you've got, what's the issue, what's the concern, and be able to show either if you're asking for money to buy something, you have to show a return of investment. So that doesn't just necessarily have to be we're going to save this much money every year, but it should show them that you have the understanding, because you have to know who you're talking to. CFO doesn't care about Splunk, he cares about money. The CEO just wants everything to be safe. The chief technology officer might go into a little bit more technical detail with you later, but can get the gist of what you're trying to say. So in my role, I have to understand who I'm talking to, how they perceive information security, because a lot of departments will see IT and IS as a cost. You know, it's a, can we avoid it? Is it possible to not spend on this software? Do we need this vulnerability threat management solution? What can we do if we don't have it? So you have to be able to disseminate that information down to who you're talking to. And a lot of times those soft skills help. The certification side, great for, it's just kind of like that little notch in your utility belt. Okay, CISM, CISSP. Half the time, nobody even knows what it means. People in IS know what it means, but you know, the CEO doesn't know or care what the CISSP means. He just wants to know they're safe. So these things are notches in your belt, because you are representing your company when you go on events, seminars, and you want to be able to provide that understanding of your peers that, okay, you're one person that we know that can understand what we're going through, and you understand what they're going through in the daily lives of a CISO or a manager or a solutions architect or cybersecurity engineer. And these certifications help. I would say my degree helped me get a job, but the certs helped me grow in the job. And the skills, you know, you'll learn them in time. Nobody's, you know, that Rome isn't built in one day type of mentality. You know, everything takes time. Everything takes patience. If you rush, there's a chance you're going to trip and fumble. But if you take it easy, you learn every day. Job experience is the best experience. The book will tell you 1,000 ways to do something, but the job, you know that the way that you did it was the one way that helped. So I think those are the skills you need to keep in mind. Communication, written, oral, depending on what you're doing. My role, I have to be very, very aware of who I'm talking to. I have to understand the room. When I go to board meetings and sit in front of a board, these guys have no idea about information security. They know about it in the news. We don't want to be the company in the news that gets a breach, and we don't want to be in the news telling other people we have a breach. So you got to know who you're talking to in my role and any managerial role. But these skills of taking that knowledge, however technical and however high level, and really understanding who you're talking to, and then disseminating it down to a way that they understand. That really helps in my role. And I think that that's one of the skills that helped me the most. Just understanding who I'm talking to and how to get that information to them.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Amanda, do you want to add anything as well?
Yeah. Just to echo on what everyone else said, I think some of those foundational skills are really important. To echo additionally, one of the phrases that I found especially helpful in my career that one of my mentors taught me was "be the packet," which I thought was an interesting headspace to be in. So when you think about the OSI model and you think about networking, and especially when you're troubleshooting or trying to figure out a problem, putting yourself in that packet mode and kind of understanding what path the packet travels, I think is very important. Now, if I could talk to myself today, starting out a brand new cybersecurity career, and I could tell myself what skills to go for, I would 100% say cloud. I think that layer one and network security is very important, but with today's world, a lot of applications are being built on the cloud or they're being migrated to cloud, and it works a lot different than your traditional data center. There's a lot of more complicated services, identity access management things to consider. And what I've perceived a lot from the job market and folks out there that are hiring is you definitely need to have a good foundation and understand, you know, this is port 80s, HTTP, whatever the case is, but you also need to really understand cloud services and how cloud works. I think that if you're going to go into a cybersecurity career in today's world, clouds, AWS, GCP, Azure, learn all of them, learn how they're different. A lot of those cloud providers also provide free trials where you can basically get free credit and you can stand up boxes out there in the cloud space. DigitalOcean's another one. It's super cheap. You can throw a sandbox up there for $5 a month. So I would definitely suggest learning cloud as much as possible. There's some free or cheap courses online through Cybrary, Cloud Guru. Those are some other courses that I follow. You can follow along with some live labs, Configure Cloud Services Live, and really getting your hands on technology. If it's something that you're interested in, getting that hands-on practice is a good way to do it. And you don't have to go out and buy an old switch. You don't have to, you know, look on eBay and pick up an old Juniper router or something, even though that's how I did it back in the day. You can literally just spin up a box in the cloud and play with it right then and there. One caveat of caution, though, I will put out there is if you are putting code or configurations out in the cloud, make sure it's not public, or if you want it to be public, just know it'll probably get owned in a couple of minutes if you haven't put proper security on your boxes. But I do highly suggest that people get out there. Like I know specifically Google Cloud gives you $300 credit of free GCP services essentially. So you can go in there, create your own project, stand up your own compute services, and really test and play that out. The last couple of things I'll mention is if you're interested in blue team, SOC type of stuff or finding bad guys, definitely learn how to pivot. And by pivot, I mean, you know, if you kind of hit a wall, learn to, you know, turn a little bit and pivot a little bit. Sometimes that means taking a break. Sometimes that means looking at things from a different perspective. And also sometimes that means asking for help. One thing in technology is I think some people think can perceive themselves to be high and mighty and have a lot of skills in technology, but I will definitely say that even if someone's had 20 years of experience, maybe unless you're a principal architect, you know, there's always more you have to learn, and not anyone's going to be an expert in anything. And we're all asking questions. Don't be afraid to Google. Being a good Googler is a skill, I think, and being able to pivot and learn on your own will really help you. So yeah, I think just really download and play with your own labs, and that's a great way to get hands-on experience.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, I think that's very helpful, especially the suggestions about going into cloud. For people on this call who are trying to figure out what career in security, that's very helpful. To kind of follow up on that, we have a question from the audience, and it's, what is your best advice or most important step to take for a career changer coming from an unrelated field to get a foothold into IT or cybersecurity? I've completed my master's in cybersecurity and have a good foundation, but I have no practical work experience. And that seems to be my biggest obstacle. So Andrea, I don't know if you want to answer this and people can add on, but since you were recently got into security, if you want to talk about how you did it.
Yeah. It's going to sound crazy, but you got to kind of get lucky. I did just that. I got lucky. I was able to get into a program with SANS where I got 3 certificates. And that's like worth like, I don't know, $20,000 or something like that. They're crazy expensive. So that was huge for me. That was a big step for me. but there's a lot you can do online to learn. And obviously with a master's degree in cybersecurity, you've learned a lot already. So that looks good. The more you can get on the resume, not just the master's degree, but also any classes you take, whether it's for credit or not, even if it's auditing through edX, or you know, just even one-off things like this month I did an 8-hour class with autopsy, which is digital forensics. And that's free. It's available to anybody right now, which was really fascinating. I'm interested in that myself. So, you know, just keep digging in, keep putting more and more on that resume. If it doesn't fit on the resume, put it in LinkedIn, you know, just get everything out there. And you're showing your dedication, you're showing your interest, and that you're continuing to learn and you're continuing to work on it, and have confidence. You know, like not nobody knows everything, like was said before. It was just, you know, I'm still learning, everybody's still learning, things are always changing. So even if you don't feel like you know enough or you don't have enough experience, you have to realize that you do in fact have enough to get a job, and you will learn a lot on the job, that's for sure.
That's a good point,
So,
I think,
Yeah.
about the job descriptions. Is there's so many job descriptions out there for cybersecurity where the list of requirements is 10 pages long. If you meet maybe 2 of those and you understand the job, just apply. Like, just apply.
Yeah, but also you do have to kind of, you have to know how to sell yourself and to have confidence, not just in person or on an interview, but in your resume and in your LinkedIn profile. You have to look professional, and you have to know how to sell your skills and your knowledge. And even if you have the knowledge but not the experience, if you can talk to that knowledge, you know, maybe write a blog post or tweet about it. You know, the more you're out there, the more visible you are, the better chance you are going to be seen by the people who are hiring. The more you participate in things like this, like we're doing today, you know, there could be somebody watching. So just, you know, keep a positive outlook on it, and stay positive and keep learning, and you will find something.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. I'd like to add on to that too. Definitely what Andrea was saying about getting yourself out there is very important. And for our last week's webinar, it was actually on networking from your couch, and it was a lot about how to make connections, how to get mentors. Basically, a lot of things Andrea was saying. So you can definitely check that out, but I think that's a very important way. Once you can go to in-person events again, I think that also really helps, whether you're going to a workshop to learn a skill or going to a presentation, always be networking. So that definitely works. And also, even if you can't get career experience right now, like you don't have a career, you have education, maybe reach out to different people in the field and see what's a project, if they have ideas for projects that you could work on the side. And that way you can, you know, put that on your resume too, that you've completed this project in whatever area. Yes. Does anyone else want to add on, Reynaldo?
Yeah,
yeah.
I want to add something. So yeah, a lot of it is also really, it's networking, and sometimes people get, in general, people get lucky. You meet the right person, or you're at the right place, right time. I would also add that you want to also learn, you know, people skills is also important, and know how to build rapport with people. Is building a trust, something that you can relate to that person or group of people. Because remember, cybersecurity is not just technology; it's also people, it's process, it's governance, like what Ahmed said. It involves many different areas. So if you're coming into the cybersecurity field and you think, oh, well, I don't have all this technical experience, or do I have to be technical? You don't have to be technical. There's many different areas to branch into for cybersecurity. You can be someone who deals with open source intelligence, which is OSINT. That involves some technical, but it's not a whole lot. It's knowing how to find information that's publicly out there. So it's a lot of passive searching that you're looking for, or detailed information. But you know, be curious, be proactive. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do something or choose something that you don't want to. Surround yourself by people that will support you and that will help you grow. is get that momentum going and to be able to grow. So when you come in the field and you feel like, well, how do I start? You got to just pick a spot. You're always selling yourself, and pick an area to start with. What piques your interest about cybersecurity. Start with that path, and then you'll see from there. You'll start branching. You want to go in that same path, or you branch in other areas of cybersecurity. Like one thing that one of my previous managers I had many years ago, he told me that when you're out doing something, even something personal you're doing or something professional, you're always selling yourself. So you never know that someone you might meet, that they're in a particular role that happens to be your part of your career path. So it's also treat people right and respect, and build rapport. Is get to know them in a good way, and you'll see that opportunities will come up. Put yourself out there.
I'd just like to add one more thing real quick. That has really worked for me. I mean, for me, it's very important to be honest, right? Not to add too much to your resume. Make sure you are honest. And when you show up to your interview and you have a technical interview and you don't know the answer, you can be honest about that. And you can also talk about, how will you think that the right answer would be, right? Based on your, so you can show that even if you're flexible, and then you can use the knowledge you have to apply it and find a fix for a problem or find solutions, right? So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Rocio.
Sorry, Emily, I'd like to add to Rizzo's comment too on the resume. Something whenever you're applying for jobs, if there's a company, when you're applying for that company, do some research on that company. Find out what is it about them that gets your interest or that particular role, and try to glean a lot of information from that position, and see what you can do or research on that, so that you can think about, if you get hired, what kind of value can you bring in. And that's a way how you can sell yourself in that interview process. Is first foot in the door is get the interview. Second is, once you have that, is showing that you come prepared. Be prepared always with questions. Even if they say they might not have questions and they don't have questions, you should always have some questions prepared.
Definitely. Yeah, it's very important to show you're interested, show that you don't just want a job, you really want that job. I would definitely agree with that. A very quick question that I just wanted to ask everyone that someone asked is, did you have a certification before you got your first job? So I don't know if you want to just go around and say if you did, and if so, what certification?
I did not. I did have I was recently graduated from college, so that was it.
I had 3.
You had 3.
Yeah, because of the certifications I got through SANS.
Nice.
I had my A+ certification when I first got my job in IT.
I got my. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I was just going to say I did not. My first tech job is when I got my Ccna for the first time. So I was able to get it on the job and was very lucky that they paid for it as well.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
For the next question I had is actually just to describe a normal day in your job. Yeah, and feel free to add to how you're using your skills and what the work environment is like. Just what is a normal day like for you? Whoever wants to start. Let's see.
I guess I could go first.
Yeah, sure.
So, I guess part of the job is it's being an educator is a big part of it. So helping developers write more secure code. So we hold technology learning sessions a couple of times a month. Then also we work at different projects, to bring in new technologies. So research and doing POV or proof of concept or proof of values is also part of the job. So the day-to-day would be like having a stand-up every day, right, to talk about, you know, what we're working on and any roadblocks we have, ask questions, and hear what the other teammates are working on. Then you have the project meetings, you know, for specific technologies that you might be working on. And then there's operations work, which is, you know, review mitigation requests off of, scans where, um, you can work with the developers to either try to find, solutions or fixes for the vulnerabilities, and also, mitigate them if they're false positives, right? Yeah, I think that's kind of what, but every day kind of looks different, right? Depending on what you're working on and, you know, and what's going on.
Yeah, that
Thanks.
makes sense. I'll go next. So my job is kind of similar, reviewing a lot of technologies, ongoing projects to improve different things. Like right now we're focusing a lot on detecting vulnerabilities in the cloud, as well with developing just some security policies. But I want to talk about when I was a SOC analyst and what that kind of looks like, because I know that's a lot of positions that people are interested in. So when I was a SOC analyst, a lot of what my day-to-day work looked like was analyzing security events. So that is anywhere from malware events to phishing events, potential network intrusion events. A lot of it dealt with developing intrusion detection signatures and then basically actioning the alerting. Splunk was mentioned. That was a tool that I heavily used as a SIM. So a lot of my day-to-day life as an analyst was spent inside the SIM, analyzing logs. So if being an analyst is definitely something that you're interested in, understanding technology logs and what normal looks like is probably one of the more difficult skills to obtain on a job like that. But that's a lot of what you're doing every day, is finding the abnormal and really trying to determine when an actual security incident has occurred, or it's just misconfiguration. Because I felt like that's one of the biggest challenges in security, is when has an actual security incident / breach or hack occurred versus, hey, this was misconfigured poorly and it's just been kind of left in the open. So a lot of analyzing, a lot of open source intelligence, a lot of phishing analyzing too. So if you're interested in threat groups and threat actors, that's a lot of research that can lead you into a threat intelligence position in the future. So just some things to keep in mind, but that's kind of what the daily life of a SOC analyst is.
And Amanda, I feel so like I feel like you and I have a lot of things in common. I hope to reach out to you after this. But I was also a SOC analyst, and one of the things that I found to be really useful while I was doing that is that Twitter, follow the bad guys. There's a lot of really good information and a lot of good intel that you can use and pivot off of. And even get ahead of some of the stuff that might be coming, because they like to brag a little bit. So,
oh yeah, great point.
That works a lot. Just
Great. So Ahmad and Reynaldo, I think you have to answer, but another attendee also asked, does your daily role get repetitive or does it challenge you? So when you answer, you can also answer that question too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go. So yeah, it's I guess in my role, it's it doesn't get repetitive. For me, it's never the same. I may have similar things that happen, but it's never really the same issue. So I guess in my case, like I'm involved with different kinds of projects. Sometimes it's back-to-back meetings. I've had a few days where I'm from 9 a.m. till like 4 or 5 p.m. It's a mix of high-level discussions with either team members or other groups. Sometimes it's technical involved. Other times it's meeting with vendors on similar products or solutions that we're looking at. So the architect role, I get to work with different groups and within the company and across digital technologies. So part of what I try to do is help kind of build that relationship, but also look at the security strategy. So it's about aligning our requirements, making sure the requirements are being met for the solutions that we have. And it's not really we're not trying to point out that these things are wrong or not working. We're just trying to, which I look at is, what can we do to improve, and what can we do to make sure that we're addressing the controls that we need from a design aspect or from a solution perspective. So we try to align our requirements to that overall strategy. It involves looking at architecture, design a solution, asking the right questions to vendors. From a strategy perspective, is how does their solution address the issues that we're dealing with, or issues that we know are there or that could come up? What are they, what can they do for us to meet those objectives? Sometimes also we deal with looking at internal projects that come in. So I'm also part of a security advisory team where we look at the architectural requirements for a design or something that a group is trying to do. And we make sure that security is built into it from the beginning. Because before it used to be that security is always an afterthought. Well, we're trying to make the security process, or have that mindset, is put into the beginning part, and make sure that, well, your design here is not following our security standards. We need to make sure that we're using encrypted protocols, or that we're protecting this kind of data, or we classify the data correctly. So we have a team that looks at all these different areas of different things that we work with. We have to think about the strategy side and understand, we gotta remember that there's people involved. There's who you work with. What is the process, the standards that we're trying to address? What are we dealing with? What are the different technologies involved, and why are we doing this? So what are we trying to protect? What is our governance? What is the risk? How do we reduce risk? So we're always, I'm always learning. It's, I mean, I don't know everything, but it's always a learning process, and having that passion for learn just, keeps me going.
Thanks. Yeah. And Ahmad, do you want to go?
Sure. So for me, I've never had a repetitive or boring day yet in 16 years, 17 years. Every day you come in, the only thing that is consistent is our daily stand-ups. So I have stand-ups with my team. We talk about the issues that they're working with that are categorized as urgent, critical, high, and medium issues, and we address those issues on a daily basis. That's the only thing that's repetitive in my day. But as Reynaldo mentioned, some days I'll sit in meetings from 9 a.m. till 5, and some days I'll have no meetings, and I'll be able to get a lot of work done. So one advice, so that it doesn't become repetitive, is make sure that you carve out some focus time for yourself in your day. Make sure that you get an hour, whether it's 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. Make sure you get some focus time to make sure you get some things done, because when you go to meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, that gets repetitive. But if you're not following through on the first meeting you had, and you're not taking the right notes, you're not going to remember what to do by the 5th meeting, what happened in the first meeting. So speaking from experience, you always got to make sure that you take good notes. The role doesn't get repetitive, especially in mine. I'm sure in the architect or engineer role, you're always scouring the network or whatever. So it's never going to be, you're going to do the same thing maybe, but you're never going to find the same stuff to get repetitive. So and it is often challenging. Yeah, it challenges me every day. And we brought up 3 offices in Europe, Singapore, and it's a challenge, especially with the coronavirus. You can't really travel, so everything is done remotely. And I literally had to ask the guy to do a FaceTime call, and then turn the camera phone around so I can see the office and make sure the physical security standards are there, the door locks, the alarms. So these are things that the challenge is there. It's always going to be there in information security, because it's such a wide range of things you have to worry about and take care of. But patience is a good thing to keep in mind. A lot of times you want to get something done very, very fast, and people are, you're limited on your resources sometimes. You can't get enough resources to get something done. So It's the only repetitive thing for me right now is meetings. But challenges, no, it's very challenging every single day. I wish that I had a day where nothing happened. I don't know what I'd do.
You get so much done.
Yeah,
Yeah, I definitely
but it's
agree
fun.
about putting time aside to either learn a new skill or to get your work done. Sometimes you have to block off time, just pretend it's a meeting so you can just get into your work. But we are nearing the end, so I wanted to finish with one more question. So I'm going to put two together. One was, what are you trying to learn in 2020? And the other was, what certifications do you think are most valuable? So feel free to answer either or both of those. Whoever wants to start.
I think this depends on what you want to do,
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
Because we can spit out 800 certifications, and
Yeah.
maybe that person doesn't want to do that one. So we've just wasted
Maybe,
his time and our time.
yeah, maybe answer for your career specifically, for your job.
Well, I think the CISM, Certified Information Security Manager, Certified Information Systems Security Professional. The ISAC also does another one, which is a Certified CISO certification. If you want to go that route, you want to go managerial, and you want to be able to have strategic and tactical teams involved and deal with C-level executives and board members, then I think that would be a great route to take in those certifications.
Great.
I'd like to say that the most important certificate is the one that you can get. So it's what you can achieve, what you can afford, what you can build upon based on what you're capable of doing at any given time. So if you're still looking for a job, you don't want to try for a certificate that's going to cost you a lot of money, because you can study for those things and learn the material online and not take the exam, or you could get take the exam later when you have a job. If you can prove that you have the knowledge and you can talk to that in an interview, and the knowledge is more important than the certificate itself. If you can talk to whatever it is that topic is that you're trying to get a job, whatever department or area, and it's anything in IT, not just cybersecurity. But if you can do the job, if you have the knowledge, that's the important part. The certificates look good, and it certainly helps. But if you're still looking for a job, I think it's more important that you get the knowledge. So it's basically just what you can accomplish and what you can realistically do with the funds that you have or the time that you have. Just the fact that you continue to learn and you continue to work on learning and building up your skills and your knowledge is the most important thing, and being able to talk to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think
Rocio?
that's,
Yeah,
sorry,
Amanda,
I was
go
just
for it.
gonna jump in. If you do have the money, or better yet, I suggest folks asking their employers what training budget is available. Sometimes employers will allow credit money that's supposed to go towards school can be spent on certifications instead. So if there's a credit program at your current employer, maybe you can ask if those funds can be reallocated for the certification. And especially if it's a skill that you're moving into a role for that particular job, or a skill that your employer is asking you to learn, definitely ask for training, because the worst I could say is no. But if you do have the money, the SANS certification courses are great. There's a lot to learn there, but they're very expensive. The in-person classes were like $6K. I don't think they're doing those anymore because of COVID, but those were great certifications. I do want to warn against getting technology specific certifications unless your company is paying for it. So for example, if you're going to learn F5 technologies and you're going to go in and get an F5 specific cert, it may not benefit you for someone who doesn't have F5. So if it's a skill that you're trying to learn, make sure it's really applicable to your job and is going to be worthwhile. And then the last thing I will say is I do have my CISSP. It's kind of like, I think everybody's goal in security is to hit that 5-year mark and kind of get that CISSP. But I will say is that you don't really learn much from it. It's kind of stuff that you've already learned up until that point. So if you want to study the material, and if you're new to security, I wish I would have started out learning from the CISSP instead of waiting 5 years and then going to look at the material and test it. Because at that time, I pretty much know most of it. It was just a matter of memorization for cert taking at that point. So just caution against specific technologies. Try to go for some of the broader certs, OSCP, the A pluses, the security pluses. Yeah, so that was just kind of my experience with certs.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I never really focused too much on the certifications. I've always focused on understanding and having the knowledge. Like in school, I did the Cisco Academy. So a lot of people have the CCNA, the CCNP, etc. And I never took it, but I did the labs and everything, you know. So that's really what helps. So yeah, if you don't have the money, I wouldn't worry too much about the certification itself. Just echoing what everybody else say. Just go look for the material.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also echo that. Yeah, I mean, it does depend. I mean, what you're getting into. It's also the path you want to take. So if you want to be in the path of a offensive, defensive type of security position, then that's something like where the certified ethical hacker certification will be valuable. The blue team, red teams type of job role, SOC analyst, that kind. If you're on the side of networking or network security, then Cisco has a few certifications that deal with the network security component, also dealing with cyber ops. If you want to be more high level approach for like information security, then that's something like the CISM, the CISP, other types of information security type of certifications would help you get that. Like in my case for architect, like the ones I'm pursuing are the CISM and the CISSP. So those are two I want to try to get hopefully within a year or two. And other types, I mean, I have a few Cisco certs. I completed my CH last year, and it's also about where you want to expand your portfolio. So think about what do you want to branch off to, what do you want to know about, and use the certs could be a way for you to get that. If you have the money to spend, yeah, you can do that. If the company you work for can't be able to pay for it, then that's better. That'll be a better option for you, but it's also an investment for them. So it's something that would benefit both you and the company. But choose really the part that you want to get into.
Thanks. Yeah. One other thing I'll add is that at CSNP we are providing, we're trying to provide events, workshops, but we're also planning to have a free boot camp as well that we're working on. So if you're interested in doing that, you can reach out to us. We're going to have a pilot virtual boot camp. And again, we know that these courses on certifications can be very expensive. So we're going to try to help with that as well. So just wanted to throw that in there. But I think we're out of time. So I want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you so much for sharing your career advice, and hope that people reach out to them too if you're interested in that specific career. They're great resources, and I actually work with everyone here. They're all really great people. So yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Everyone have a good night.
Good night.
Good luck, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Good luck.